Silence is painful. Our society cannot stand that. We want that continual volume, keep feeding me, feeding me, feeding me, feeding me, and we just sort of forget what's it all about. I confess, okay, it's late in the afternoon, you're getting a little bit tired, and I want to put you to work. I'm sorry, it's time to get up and going. So literally, first thing we need to do, feed our brain. I'm going to ask everybody, please stand up, and stand up. And as you're standing up, breathe in. And then out. And then in. And then out. And then in. And then out. Pure oxygen into the lungs, feeding the brain. That's wonderful. Okay, our brain's working again. I've got it. That's good. But Paul has a message. What does he want to do? He wants to be inconvenient for every one of you. You've met all of these great people, you're settled in your chairs, you know where you're happy. I want you to move to a different table. Please pick up your books and move to a different table. Thank you. Thank you. The good news is we do have room for everybody, but I know you get comfortable, you know your neighbors, I've just settled in, and then I'm on the move again. So thank you very much. Where are we going today? Okay, last session, not to keep you too long before the big feast coming afterwards. What do I want to talk about? Ian this morning said, it's obvious. What's obvious? The link between social prosperity and economic development. He says you can't have one without the other. That's a pretty short talk. Okay, thank you, Ian. Mission accomplished. But maybe I'm sorry, I've brought along a few slides, so humor me a little. I'd like to suggest there is more in the common ground here, so we'll review of some of that. Something about social prosperity you've already been talking about, a little bit about economic development, how the two come together, a little bit about how we deliver economic development with our program, and of course, giving away the secrets. It's all about networking, building capacity. Thank you, Kathy. My favorite word, though, at the end is networking, and we'll come back to that social capital and how it's created. That's what helps build that community resilience, by knowing more people, having more options, and you'll see a few pictures of what that looks like a little later in the talk. So how do we get there? We want to drive this ship forward. So we've got it set out. Thank you very much, Russell. But the driver there is this social entrepreneur, somebody to make a change and make it a better world. Straight from the slides this morning, social prosperity, Wood Buffalo aims to improve the quality of life. Anyone in this room dare vote against that? Wow, consensus. That's a good thing to have. Doesn't happen too often. We want to build capacity. Thank you, Kathy. Straight from the whole purpose here. And recognize the importance of the nonprofit sector of the social economy. Why? We are social creatures. All of our interaction, our society is all about interacting one with the other. Contrast that to what's this local economic development about? Well, again, same objective. We want to improve the local well-being. Now, there were two big schools of thought. The first was, you'll give me lots of money, right? The classic example was the cargo cult. Remember the cargo cult? What was that? That became popular in the Second World War. The highlands of Papua New Guinea, extremely remote communities, suddenly a plane would fall out of the sky, land in the middle of the rainforest or on the mountain, and here's a plane filled with the most amazing things you've never seen before in your life. So they would go out and they would build a replica plane to attract more of them. Just bring down all of that good stuff, Somehow the universe will provide. I will have all of the stuff I need if I'm just make the right sort of homage to that great cargo god in the sky. Wait for somebody else to solve your problem. Somebody else will bring along that truckload of money. Well, yes, that is one approach. That's, of course, called exogenous. It's that external bundle of money coming in. But very much these days, We turn it exactly around the other way. We talk about endogenous. Endogenous, that sounds like a really big word. It means we're doing it together. Within our community, we are going to build. So the new approach is about economic gardening. And again, we've already been talking about that today. It's planting the seeds, it's nurturing the plant, it's building on what we have. We then add words like saying it's the entrepreneurship to start the new venture, it's the support to enable it to grow, but ultimately it is the same as that biological, how can we grow our community? So we start with those local assets. We were talking about future mapping exercises of what are our assets and what can we build on. The goal is a better future. How many of us have thought of our children and said, I want a worse future? Duh, you know. I'd really like my children to have, poverty and poisoned water and all the terrible air we can imagine. I don't think so. We want to make the world a better place. Oh, and guess what? Somebody else at your table also wants to make the world a better place. That means that ship has to go from point A to point B. What is this entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship, we often think of it in the commercial sense, creating a venture, selling your product and making a profit. Well, that's true. That's one form, but there are others. There are also social entrepreneurs who want to make social change, who say we can make a better future. That, I confess, is the secret that I want to share today, of saying that drive for creating new commercial ventures is fine, but we want to create new social ventures. Why? For a better future for our society. We want to think long-term, sustainable. How are we going to be better off? Part of that, in terms of, so who am I? So Paul Parker comes from the University of Waterloo. He happens to be the director of this economic development program. This isn't my program. This is the country's program. I have a confession. The university didn't even think of this program, right? It was the community at large. It was the Economic Developers Association of Canada who came to the university and said, we have a need. Will you develop a program? Oh, some professors said yes, and 40 years later, it's still in operation. Well, wait a minute. How can anything last for 40 years? Confession is it had to make a few changes along the way. So this is just a quick look. So what do you include now? So this is this national association. You're having programs delivered from Newfoundland in one side to Nunavut in another, to Nanaimo, so that you've gone from sea to sea to sea. Oh, and of course, thank you for letting us be here in Wood Buffalo today. Important points along the way. Communities across the country have participated and benefited. We have a national certification program. We run the Year 1 and the Year 2 course, Fundamentals of Community Economic Development and Advancing Economic Development Opportunities. And of course, a website where you can see what the latest seminar opportunities are for specialized topics. Just very briefly, because I don't want to take too much of your time, what's going to be included? You start with the big picture. What are the trends around us? So what's the big economic context? And then we talk about models of community economic development and how they have changed. And then we realize that life gets complicated. We talk at the regional level of the politics of inclusion. How do you include more stakeholders and more people? And then we go through marketing strategies, analytical techniques for the quantitative analysis, business development projects, the First Nations context and engagement, planning techniques, and of course, strategic economic planning, because why did they put that strategic word in there? Why do you add strategic in front? We may have a room filled with great ideas, but can we do them all, or can we do them all at once? The reason we think strategically is to say, which ones are you going to move ahead first? I have to make a selection. And so we're going to say, yes, this is where we are. Yes, that's where we want to go. Which are the pieces we're going to start moving with? That enables us to have a plan. We then say, what's going to be the fuel that drives this? And I confess, it's that desire for change. How many kids want to say, I want the world the same way it was when my parents grew up? Sorry, they want change. We want change. Change is the process. That's why we bring and talk about entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is the start of our course, but it's not the entrepreneur on a pedestal. Entrepreneurship is all about the culture of a community, to say, we will support change. It's not just those kids in the Accelerator Center with the greatest new widget, right? It's creating a supportive environment to say, we want new things. We want change. So we can then bring in some of the tools, talk about financial analysis, business retention. We can talk about the latest trends. Where's the knowledge economy going? What is this green economy driving new opportunities? Tourism is growing around the planet. All new opportunities for us. And how are we doing? Back to that evaluation piece. Yes, again, it's always important to include.